You are watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. Info at netsoftakademy.com. www.netsoftakademy.com.
So now let's start with scenario number 9. Scenario number 9 is a little bit unique because in this scenario now we are going to be introducing an edge server into the mix, a edge transport server role, a server that is running the edge transport server role. So the purpose of the edge transport server role is to act as a filter to stop communication from coming in and going out. It will filter the messages. And this is where you apply all of your anti-spam, anti-malware, and all the other necessary and required, remember, necessary and required filters. So the process generally remains the same. However, in this case, we'll have two forests, and we'll try to communicate between two users from between the forests, and ensure that we can actually get a email through. All right, so let's first start with this. This is my domain controller. This is Nita ADDS01. I'm going to log in. I'm going to promote the server to a domain controller as usual. So those steps will remain generally the same. But this time we'll just do as we did in the previous scenario. We'll first complete the task completely on one server, then move to the next, then move to the next, rather than doing one at a time or switching between the servers. This is so that you can have a clear process flow in your mind. Okay, so first things first, Ethernet 0, properties. Now in this scenario, however, remember that your IP addresses need to be 100% accurate. Do not stray from your IP addresses. So I'm going to use 172.16.10.10. 172.16.10.1 is my gateway, and my preferred DNS is 172.16.10.10. Okay, done. Now add roles and features. Now this entire part is something that we are familiar with, but this time both the forests will also use the same names as previous scenario, where we had netsoftakademy.com as forest 1 and nita.local as forest 2. So we'll be using the same names. So I'll wait for this installation to complete, and then I'll start with the promotion part, the domain controller promotion part. All right, so this installation is done. Now let's promote the server to a domain controller. Add a new forest, netsoftakademy.com. Now try to make sure that the names are completely different. Don't use even numbers, NetSoft Academy 1, NetSoft Academy 2, or Nita 1, Nita 2, because we don't want unnecessary or unwanted issues popping up later on. So always keep that in mind. Next. Okay. Now this part is always going to take a little bit of time, to be quite honest. But compared to the Exchange server installation, this is a very, let's just say, peaceful process, where the steps are pretty much not too big or not too huge. Right? So now I'll just click on install as soon as the installation option comes up, and then we'll wait for it to complete installation, restart, and then we'll pick up from that part. So now the domain controller has restarted. Let me log in quickly. Now we'll be doing a few quick things. Number 1, we will check the IP addresses. Number 2, we will create an OU and a user. And number 3, we will run the Exchange server prerequisites here. So tools. Oh, before I go for that, before I forget and go for tools, actually, IP addresses first. Now the only reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want issues with my DNS connections and have my domain joins fail. If something that simple fails, it's not a good look. Seriously, come on. It's not a good look. All right. Disable, enable. Okay, IP address done. Now we are going to move on to step number 2, and that is setting up a user and an OU. So we're going to create only one user, one OU. In this one, we don't need multiple users. We only need one user. So new OU, this one I'm going to name Toronto. Now under this a user, let's say Megan Fox, M Fox. Next, password 1350, password 1350. Now remember that until the very end, we will not understand the purpose of this entire scenario because the mail flow is going to be one major issue here. Finish. So we want to ensure mail flow is happening, and that is the final goal. So until the very end, we'll not be using the user. So sometimes you might forget your username. Doesn't hurt. You can always go back to your Active Directory users and computers and double check. Now, one other thing that we're going to do here now is I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to mount the Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO. And once I mount it, I'm not running it, I'm not installing it here. I'm just going to run the prerequisite command. So I'm going to go to PowerShell, D colon. Now, this is one of those places where you should have your entire command sequences lined up or ready for you to go. If you don't, take a moment, like how I'm going to do it. Take a moment, find that document, and make sure that you have it handy for you. Now, I'm going to run all three of the prerequisite commands in the background right now. I'll run them one after the other. But ideally, you should have your documents ready in a document. It would be better if you have it on your desktop or somewhere where you can easily find it as well. All right, so all three commands are done. So this is the domain controller part done here. You can see that I've run all three commands one after the other on the domain controller. Now we move on to the Exchange server setup and installation part. Prerequisite installation and then setup, obviously. So this is my Exchange server. Now remember to give more resources to your Exchange server. Your domain controller can work with less resources, or you can always reduce the resources later on. But if your Exchange server doesn't have enough resources, it will not work or it will not function properly and you will not be able to log into the Exchange Admin Center. Even that is a problem here now. So let me quickly sign in. So all the changes that we need to do actually need to need to be applied on a domain join machine. So we'll first domain join, restart, then we'll start with the Exchange server prerequisite installation, and then we'll install the Exchange server on this. The Exchange server mailbox role on this. Remember, this is a mailbox server. Mailbox. This isn't the normal Edge server that we are going to build. The Edge server is going to be different. Oh, excuse me. Right here. 10.20, 172.16.10.1, 172.16.10.10. Okay. Right, work group, change, domain, netsoftakademy.com. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, why does he always do this? FQDN is not case sensitive. You're absolutely correct. And if you're thinking that, 10 points to you because you are thinking the right thing. It's these small basics that a lot of time people forget, and that creates a little bit of a chaos in your minds. You might be thinking, who would forget these kinds of things? A lot of people do. A lot of people. So we'll just restart the machine once it's back. Then we will start with the Exchange server prerequisite installation. So in the meantime, ideally you should have located your document and you should have your big command and everything else all in one document. If you don't, it is not a big deal. You can always create the document for future reference or to recreate the labs or to test your own home environments. You can do whatever with that, but at least make sure that you have a document with you. It simplifies your life by a huge margin. Trust me. So first things first, once it restarts, we'll obviously log in as the enterprise admin. We are going to log in as the enterprise admin. Now, one thing, while this is restarting, I want to show this to you over here. So when I click on tools and I go to Active Directory users and computers again, you might notice that there are a few more things that were added here. When we ran the 3 commands earlier, this is what happened. You get foreign security principles, managed service accounts, and Microsoft Exchange security groups. Now, under this, you have different types of server management roles here: security reader, security administrator, records management, receipt management, for public folder management. These are all the roles that are here. So, let me just zoom in a little bit so that you can see them clearly. And you can see what exactly you're seeing here. Now, there will be some situations wherein, for example, the Exchange trusted subsystem, you might need to assign a permission for this to the global administrator. There will be some certain situations like that. Now, not just in here. If I expand my users, even in the users, now I would have, or I would see a few other changes here at the bottom. System mailboxes, guest, Exchange online application account, federated email. You can see that there are a few things that were added later. So this is one of the reasons why we do all of that prerequisite installations and everything. So now let me move to my Exchange server again. Let me log in quickly. Again, remember, always log in as the enterprise admin. Don't log in as just the administrator. That will just lead to a lot of pain and a lot of recreation of the same tasks again. All right. So first things first, I'm going to mount the Office 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO, or Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO here. Okay. Yep. Now, once here, I'll just start Java. I'll not start anything else. I'll just start Java. And while this is working, I'm going to open my PowerShell. I'm going to open my PowerShell and I'm going to copy and paste the big command from my personal documents there, as you can see here. So now I'll just quickly install all the prerequisites, restart this computer, and then we'll pick up from the Exchange server installation part. So just keep an eye out for this. These are the same exact steps that we do. So while this is installing, I'm going to start with Microsoft Visual C++ 2013 install. So let me quickly do all the necessary prerequisites and then we'll pick up when we are installing the Exchange server. So at this point, my Exchange server has restarted. All the prerequisites are installed. Now I'm going to mount the Exchange server 2019 CU14 ISO file here. And I'm going to start the installation process. I generally like running autoplay and running everything through autoplay. It is one of my things. I like to keep my hands a little bit clean, and I don't want to do heavy lifting if I can avoid it. But if you have to, then you can find the setup.exe file inside the ISO file and you can run it. So I'll just wait for this to move past this point here. Okay, we are here. Next. We are only selecting the mailbox role here now. Remember, this is our standard mailbox server. We are not doing anything else. Next. Yes, disable malware scanning. Yes, because internet access is required. We are not working on the internet. Next. So I'll just wait for the prerequisites to be configured and the installation to start. And while the installation is starting, I'll just do one additional task. And that task will be very simple. I'll just domain join my workstation. I'll domain join it, and then I'll shut down my workstation. Until the very end, I don't really need my workstation. So I don't want to do it at that time. Now remember, I'm building Forest 1 first. Once Forest 1 is done completely, 100%, then I'll go to Forest 2. I'll not build 2 forests simultaneously. The purpose being that I might end up mixing things, or you might also end up mixing things. So while this is happening, I'll go to my workstation here. So we'll quickly do a domain join, and we'll just shut down the machine after it's done. We don't need the workstation until the very end, but we do need our Edge server and our Exchange server and our domain controller to be functional 100% of the time. We can't do without that. Oh, and yes, one last thing. I know you guys know this, but this is something that I keep forgetting. And it is the fact that I would like my power and sleep for this one to be never. I want my Exchange server to keep on running while the installation is happening. All right, so this is my workstation. Okay, Windows R, ncpa.cpl. Now you'll realize one thing, that the more time you give Windows workstation, the Windows 11 workstation or Windows 10 workstation, the better it performs. So this one is 172.16.10.30. 172.16.10.1 is the gateway and 172.16.10.10 is the preferred DNS. After that, start, settings, scroll all the way to the bottom under system, click on about, scroll down, click on domain or workgroup, click on change. Domain, netsoftakademy.com, administrator, and the password 1350. All right, so now this is domain joined. So I'm going to close this. I'll say restart later. And I'm just quickly going to shut down the machine. The only reason why I'm not restarting is because then it restarts, then I have to pause it or I have to shut it down later. I'll just shut it down now. I'll start the machine when I really need to start, when I really need to check my mail flow in the end. This is not going to be used until the end. Keep that in mind. This will not be used until the end. Now, while the Exchange server is installing here, we'll wait for it to install, but I'll be doing a few due diligence tasks. So for example, on the Edge server, we have to install the same prerequisites and do the same steps again. So I'll just get a head start on that part. I'll just ensure that this is domain joined, IP addresses are set, everything is good, and then move on. So let me show you what IP address I'm going to use for Nita Edge 01. The Edge server, I'm just going to do the prerequisite installation, nothing else. I'm not going to install anything on it. And I'll tell you why in a bit as well. This is just so that we can maximize our resources without putting too much pressure on ourselves towards the end, where we are concerned with, is this done right, is that done right? We do everything in one small chunk at a time, not one big gulp. Remember, in IT, you should always take things slowly and steadily. You should never take things in one big go. So first, the IP address, properties, 172.16.10.40, 10, 20, 30, 40. 172.16.10.10. Okay, that is done. Workgroup. Remember, Edge server is also like an Exchange server, but its role is different. So instead of selecting the mailbox server, we select the Edge transport role, and that is the only difference between these two. So netsoftakademy.com. Okay, okay, close. Now I'll restart the machine right now, and I'll get started on the Exchange server prerequisite installations. The prerequisites remain the same. The steps remain the same. The only difference is the role that you choose in the Exchange server setup. Remember that. And once you choose that role, what it does is completely different. The mailbox server or the mailbox role, the server with the mailbox role, will actually just be, let us say, how do I put it? It will just be one of those things which will be hosting, or which will be collecting and containing all the user mailbox data, the user mail data and everything. The Edge transport server acts as a DMZ, or it is a part of the DMZ, and it acts as a barrier between your internal mail server and the external network, that is the internet. Now you might have seen a small error pop up on my screen and you might have just seen me just close it and start again. It's nothing, don't worry. It is just I have too many things going on at the same time, so it is bound to eventually give me a little bit of trouble because my resources need to be organized or divided up properly. If they are not, it could cause a big issue. All right, so let me get started on the Exchange Server prerequisite installation now. PowerShell. Just give it a second. Let the VMware tools kick in. Let everything scale up a little bit. You'll automatically see what exactly am I talking about. Now, you see, it's scaled up. So first things, I'm going to mount the Exchange Server Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO. And yes, I'm also going to copy my command from here. See, I have my file here. I would recommend that everybody has their own file. But I missed autoplay. If you just saw it, I missed autoplay. So I'm going to go to my file explorer, open the DVD drive, start with Java first, always. Now I'm going to just complete these prerequisites and wait for the Exchange Server installation to be completed here. Now this is one of the reasons why I don't like moving too much between virtual machines because it confuses a lot of you. So the idea is that I'm only just setting up one Exchange server at a time or one mailbox server first, then I'll move on to the other one. So I'll just do all of this in the background and we'll wait for the Exchange server to install completely and then we'll start the Edge Transport Server role installation on this server. So my Exchange server installation is done, as you can see here. So I'm going to quickly go to the browser. Now remember, the browser again is your choice. You can use either Edge or if you want, you can install Google Chrome. But whatever you do, just make sure that you are getting access first. Now you can see Edge is a little bit, setup is a little bit tricky at the first time, but we don't need it for more than this anyway. We're not doing any heavy browsing on this. So it would work for us. Now once Edge is set up, I can right click and click new in private window or incognito window basically. Navigate to https://nita-mbxs01.netsoftakademy.com/ecp/. Now, why do you think this is happening here? The reason is very simple. Remember, we always go to Exchange Management Shell first and then we make sure that everything is connected. This is the reason why. Otherwise, it would not load up because we don't even know if the server is actually there or not. So that is why I do these steps first, always. So I'll wait for this to complete and connect. And then when we refresh, we'll see the results here right away. Now this can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So be a little bit patient. Exchange server rewards patience. Exchange server, let's just say, penalizes, that's the right term for it, penalizes impatience. If you're impatient, your installation is just going to be more complicated than necessary. You have to be a little bit more patient. So I'll wait for it to complete, and once it is done, we'll be able to log in and see the rest. And now you can see this here, that once everything got connected and everything was working, the Exchange Admin Center pops up. So let me zoom in a little bit. NetSoft Academy /administrator. Okay, now I have a quick question for everyone. With this kind of a typo, do you think it will go through or not? I just clicked on enter. Here. I'm clicking on sign in again. You see, it goes through. So those kinds of small things don't matter. But if you misspell administrator and put in some other spelling, then it is going to be a difficult conversation. Let's just say difficult conversation and leave it at that. All right. So the idea here is the fact that I'm just going to add my user mailbox account, and then I'll move on to my Edge server and I'll start the Edge server installation. So user mailbox, browse. I only have one user, Megan Fox. I know that. Okay, save and done. Now I'll go to my Nita Edge 01. Now I will be honest, I did do a little bit of more than prerequisites, but I moved all the way until this part here. Next. Now this is my Exchange Server installation part. By the way, I did all the prerequisites, I configured everything properly, I did everything. Next. Now this is where the change comes in. We select Edge transport role, and I'm also going to select automatically install Windows Server roles and features that are required to install Exchange Server. Now we don't really need this, honestly, but I'm just selecting it out of necessity here. Next. Now remember this, that the Edge server will fail at least once while installing. You will have to do the installation multiple times. You will have to go through the installer multiple times. It does fail. And it is not due to any mistake of yours, it is just due to the fact that certain services, while being deployed, stop abruptly. It is a software glitch. It isn't a you thing, it is mostly a Microsoft thing. So we'll wait for these prerequisites to analyze and complete and do whatever is necessary. And once everything is good to go, then we'll click on install. And you'll see that there's only 9 steps here. But remember, this will fail at least once. At least once this will fail. So I'll wait for this to complete. And by doing this, we are not completely doing everything. We are just completing the infrastructure build up. Once the infrastructure is completely set up, then we will move on to the next parts. And that is repeating this entire same process again for the second forest. That is neta.local. So it is going to be fun. It is going to be fun. So let's see what exactly happens. So now if you look at this, at step 7 of 9, you see that there is an error here. Now remember I mentioned that Edge server installation has a few issues like this where you might have to redo the installation multiple times. This is one of those steps. So I'm again going to run the setup again. I use autoplay again, but remember this is just one of those steps where it takes a little bit of push and you might have to be a little bit more patient here. Remember again, let me be very clear, this will fail at least once. And you see this here? It will immediately say, hey, there is an incomplete installation. Do you want to finish it? You click on next and you see now there's just 8 steps. So we'll let it complete, and the second time around it always works. If it doesn't, then you go for a third time. But it is not the end of the world. It is a very easy step. All right, so we'll wait for this to complete and then we'll move to the next few steps. So after a little bit of time, you can see that my Exchange server setup on the Edge server is completed. Now I'm going to click on finish. Now, remember this is an Edge server. This is not a full-fledged mailbox server. So there are a few things that we'll have to do in this one. So first things first, I'll first go to my Exchange management shell. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can see or I can ensure that everything is connected. And you can see that it doesn't say connector or anything, but if I say get dash mailbox, you see there's no output out of this, get dash mailbox. It's not a recognized commandlet because it doesn't support this. Okay, so now we're going to do a sequence of steps. So the first step is go to File Explorer, this PC, local disk C, create a new folder and name this folder Edge file. I think I have a typo here. Let me just change it. so that it is understandable. Now, I would honestly recommend not leaving any spaces or anything. And I'm going to copy this path or copy this file access here, file name here as a path. Okay, I'll keep this here. Now, there are a few commands that we'll have to run. So we'll have to run this command called new H subscription and give the file name to this folder here. Okay, so let me copy just until this command here. Yep, just until this command on the Edge server. Now this is the Edge server, yes. Clear. Dash file name. Now this is my path, C:/edge file /edge.xml and enter. It will ask you, are you sure you want to do this? You say A, that is yes to all, and enter. And once you do that, you will see that there is a XML document available here. Now there are multiple methods of copying this file over. So sometimes a simple Control-C, or let's say I copy the entire folder here. I copy the entire folder and I go to my Nita MBXS01. Okay, just give me a second. This is one of those troublesome issues here, and I paste it. You see, my paste isn't going to work. So in that scenario, what we can do is, because they're all on the same network, you can just say properties, right-click properties. This is back on the Edge server again. Remember, this is back on the Edge server, and share the file. So basically, it is set to administrator for everywhere. We are not logging in as any other user anyway. Administrator has the read and write permission, so we just click on share. And this is the file path. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to copy this file path, close it, and now I'll go back to Nita MBXS01, go to Windows Run, and paste the file. And this is how I can get access to the Edge file. So I can copy this entire folder here and just paste it. Different methods do exist. You can sometimes drag and drop as well. It works as well. But in case it doesn't, this is how you do it. Now, this is not the end though. Now we need to run this command on the mailbox server. So the location of the copied file, the one that I just copied, and this. Now, one thing I'll do before I do anything else, and it is this, that I'll just navigate to this PC, local disk C, and drag the file here. This is so that I can actually use the same location and everything and not be worried about my entire thing. Okay, so this is my Exchange PowerShell, Control V. Now location of the copied file is what I need to enter. Control C. Now this might all look a little bit intimidating in the beginning, but trust me, you'll get used to it. Control V /edge.xml. So let me zoom in a little bit so you understand what exactly is happening. This is the command new -edge subscription file data byte get content path is C:/edge file /edge.xml encoding byte and site default first name site and enter. Now this will again ask you, are you sure you want to do this and everything else? You can see that it is all done. It is done. Now comes the next command. The next command is test and the one after that is start. So I'm going to test edge synchronization first. And you can see sync status is inconclusive. So that is where I'll start my edge synchronization. Now remember, this will fail a few times. This will fail a few times. You'll have to give it like 5-10 minutes for this to work. So you can just keep trying after every 5-minute interval or every 2-minute interval and you get the results. It will work. We did everything right, it will work. But it will take a few minutes to configure everything properly. Right? So you can see this. So I'll just give it 5 minutes and then we'll see if we are able to connect. And now after a few attempts, you can see that my edge synchronization is successful. Now, if I clear this again, let's see. I run the command start edge synchronization. You will see that it is synchronized, the result is successful, everything is working. Now, if I run the command again, test edge synchronization, you will see that the sync status is normal, the name is this one, the lease is being held by this. When does the lease expire? What is the transport service status? All of this. All right. Now, another thing that you'll also see is on your Exchange control panel. Now, if you go to your browser here, refresh everything, and click on Mail Flow first, and click on Send Connectors, you will see that Edge Sync has been created. Earlier, this wasn't created. Another thing that you can also see here, if you click on Servers, is Nita Edge 01 is the Edge Transport Server. Now, other than that, you'll see that there's no second database, no database availability group, no virtual directories, nothing. It's just two servers. Now, this is our Forest 1 infrastructure built completely. This is it. We are going to repeat the same exact process on Forest 2 now. So, on Forest 2, I'm going to first change the IP address and I'm going to install the ADDS and do all of the other things. And ideally, we will want to start the Exchange server installation as quickly as possible. Now here, we are going to start with the IP address series 172.16.10.50. Now, in case you feel that, okay, maybe this is getting too close, too uncomfortable, you can use the series 100. 172.16.10.1. Now, 172.16.10.100 is our preferred DNS server. Remember, this is the start of a new forest. This is not the same forest. This is the start of a new forest. So I'm going to install all of the services as necessary. And once we are creating the domain, I'll show you what exactly we are creating here. Now, when I add a new forest here, when I promote the server to a domain controller, I'm going to go with the domain name nita.local. That's the only change. Other than that, the process remains generally the same. So let me complete the process of creating the domain controller and everything, and then we'll look at the next steps. Right, so my domain controller has restarted. You can see this. Now, I'll repeat the same set of steps that I did on the first domain controller, wherein first I'm going to mount Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO on this. And obviously, I'll do all the due diligence necessary and I'll run the 3 commands on it. I'll make sure that everything is prepped up first. So, local server first. Make sure that it is all 100% clear here. Now, remember, we are using the series 100 just for a little bit of separation. But if you don't want separation, then you can always use 172.16.10.50 and keep everything in sequence for yourself. And this is close to 8 machines running at the same time at one point. And remember, I'm not counting the I'm not counting the workstations in here at the moment. So it will only be 6 machines, 2 Exchange servers, 2 running Exchange Edge and Mailbox, and 2 domain controllers. So that is 6 machines in total. All right, this is good. I'll create a user. Now this time the username will be Bruce Lee. The OU will be France. And the user will be Bruce Lee. blee@nita.local. Password 1350. Password 1350. User must not, password never expires. Now in a testing environment, password never expires works, but not in a live environment. In a live environment, passwords must always expire. D:, enter. And now I'm going to run the commands again. So you see that it's the same thing again. But it's just that because of the scale of the infrastructure, we end up repeating the same steps again. So let me quickly complete these, and then we will start with the Exchange Server prerequisite installation. And once we're done with that, we'll start with the Exchange Server installation process. So I've run all 3 commands. You can see they're all successfully completed. That's perfect. Now, while the commands were running, I went ahead and domain joined the NITA ADDS0, NITA MBXS02 machine. I ran the prerequisites. Now, all I need to do now is restart the machine. Now, you might be thinking, is this the same step that we did? The answer is yes. The only reason I did that is because we already know these steps. So I didn't feel the need to explain the steps again or show the steps again because we've been doing the same exact steps forever. So don't worry, it's the same sequence of steps, it's the same installations, it's the same everything that we have gotten used to. So now I'll just wait for the machine to restart. Once it restarts, we will start with the Exchange Server mailbox role installation. Then we will move to the next step. That would be the Edge server installation and setting up our Edge environment and everything, and then connecting both of them and ensuring that emails can flow. All right, so my Exchange server has restarted. I'm going to log in. And I'm going to mount the Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO on this and get started on the Exchange Server installation. Now, this will be a mailbox server. Keep that in mind. Let me repeat myself again. The mailbox server is the server that actually contains the mail data or that contains the email data of the users. Without this, you cannot send and receive emails because there's no way to host the emails perfectly. Right? So, we'll just get started on the process of installing the mailbox server role. We'll make sure that all the necessary prerequisites are met before we do anything else. And then we move on to the next few steps. Now, the workstation, domain joining the workstation is a smaller task in the middle, which as soon as the installation starts, I'll just complete. It will be behind the scenes. You don't really need explanation on that. You already know how to do it. It's just the IP address would be the next set. This is 172.16.10.110. That will be 172.16.10.120. Now remember one thing. It is necessary that you conclude your internal infrastructure construction first before moving on to the edge. Make sure that your internal infrastructure is built up first. That is your domain controller, your Exchange server, and your workstation. Once those 3 are built, then you add the edge. Don't do it before that. The reason why is very simple, so that you have a clear-cut understanding of how your infrastructure actually is built. At the very least, you can also see if mail flow is enabled or not, if you can get everything working or not. All of those are important aspects here. So we'll wait for this. Next, next, next. Mailbox role. Next, next. Disable malware scanning, yes. We don't want it to scan the internet. Next. And once the prerequisites are configured and analyzed, we should be able to just install everything. In case something is left, it will all show up right now. In case I made a mistake, in case I missed anything, it will show up right here. If it doesn't show up, if it just says warning, that means that everything is good. Install. Now we will wait for this installation to complete first. Remember, you'll have to wait for your Exchange server to be installed 100% before you move forward. We don't want to start Exchange and Edge side by side and have one of them fail or have both of them fail at the same time. We would like to complete one at a time. So we'll wait for this to complete, and once this is completed, we'll look at the next steps. Okay, so after a little bit of waiting, my Exchange server setup is finished. I'll first open the Exchange management shell. Remember, this is still the Exchange, the mailbox server. This is the MBXS02. It's not this. Now, you might be thinking, why am I stumbling so much over my names? The reason why is because we have 8 machines here. So it is possible that I might get a little bit sidetracked sometimes. Now I'm going to open Microsoft Edge. Now ideally I would like to open Edge in a private window like this one. and navigate to https /nita mb. You see, this is, however, one thing that Edge is not famous for, is forcing you to do this. mbxs02 dot netsoftakademy.com. Oh, sorry, it's not NetSoft Academy, it's nita.local /ECP/ yes, mbxs02 dot nita. Yeah, there is a typo here, right here. nita.local. Yep. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yep. nita /administrator and password 1350. After that, it will ask us for the time zone. We set the time zone as Canada Eastern. You can set to any location you want. It's a you call there, but it is one of those things wherein you understand the scale or the original intention behind Exchange. Remember that the original intention behind Exchange was that companies would be able to contact each other and control their entire email infrastructure for better data control and compliance. That is one goal of Exchange on premises or hosting Exchange on premises. Now, we'll wait for this. Now, before we start, let me add the user mailbox here. Browse. This is the reason why I created only single users, so I could just add them quickly and get it done with. My workstation is already domain joined, so I'm not going to go back there. But I want to show you a few things. Now, this is when Edge still hasn't been installed. So if I click on Mailflow and I click on Send Connectors, you see there's nothing to show here. If I click on servers, anyway, we know that there is no Edge server. But even after I install the Edge server role, it will not show up here until I set up the Edge subscription in the Edge transport service. So let's move on to Nita Edge 02. Now, at this point, this machine hasn't been set up, it hasn't been configured, there is no domain join done, anything. So I'll be doing all of those things. And I'll show you exactly how the process looks like. So let's wait for this machine to start up. All right, so it started up. I'm going to log in. You can see that this isn't a domain joined machine at all. It is an independent standalone machine. So first things that we're going to do is we are going to change the IP address. So remember the IP address series that we used for the second forest nita.local was 100, 110, 120. This will be 130. It's a good thing to remember your sequences if you feel that you want this kind of separation altogether. Now, do I recommend using 192 series here as a differentiator? Yes, you can use it, but it's not worth the effort. Or I'm not saying, let me take back my words. It isn't that it isn't not worth the effort, it is just that in the testing environment, your IP address range isn't really that big of a problem personally, right? So, okay, here done, local server, work group, change, domain, nita.local, and remember the process remains consistently the same. So while this machine restarts, or after this machine restarts, I will start installing the prerequisites. So before I do that, I'll just say restart now. And while the machine is restarting, I'm going to click on settings and I'm going to mount the Microsoft 365 hybrid deployments ISO here. Now remember that I don't have to run the entire series of commands that I needed to run the first time around. That is all the prepare schema and all those commands, because you only need to run them once. You only extend your schema once. The second time or the third time you do it is just as a good practice to make sure that everything is working as planned. So I'll wait for it. Other user, Nita backslash administrator password 1350. Now, as soon as it starts here, I'm going to copy the install Windows feature command, this big command here. Now, just copying it isn't enough because sometimes things don't translate over very well with VMware tools still being deployed in the background. As you can see, even though I copied it, it would not show up here. So let me copy it again. Yeah, now it will paste. And it's one of those weird quirks that do happen, which isn't very, it's not earth shattering, groundbreaking, or anything else. You need to understand that. All right, so let me go to my file explorer, DVD drive D, start with Java first, because that takes the longest to pop up, then Visual C++, yes, install, Unified Communications Managed API. Okay, so my C++ has been installed. Next, I've read and accept the license terms, install. All right, so we'll wait for this to install. Now, the only thing I'll be installing or I'll wait to install is the IIS URL rewrite module. So I'll do these while the command here is running. So I'll wait for the command to complete, then do the rest, and then restart the computer. And then we'll start with the Edge server installation here. So I'm restarting the Edge server after all the prerequisite installation. And while it is happening, again, you can do it after you log in, or just like how I do it here, you could just simply mount the Exchange Server ISO right now. Either way, it is a good idea to wait a little bit because I would preferably want to trigger my autoplay and make sure that I'm able to actually just blitz through the installation. Administrator password 1350. Yep. Now, once I'm here, settings, cd/dvd SATA, and ISO, the ISO file for Exchange Server 2019 CU14. Yep. Run setup.exe. Now, this is one of those things wherein, yes, I do a little bit of trickery just to make sure that it works or I can get it to work the way I want it to. But it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You can do the other manual way as well. If you miss one step, it's not the end of the world for anything. You can always go back or you can always change the step on the way. The best thing is the fact that as long as you know the process flow, you know the basic things that are required, you can do every single thing that is in this entire scenario. But if you don't know your basics properly, if you don't know, let us say, why you're doing a certain task, it could have negative drawbacks or negative impacts, whatever you want to call it. It could have that. Now I'll wait for the files to get copied, and once we are starting the Exchange Server installation, even this will fail once. This will fail once. Edge server installations are notorious for failing on you, but you don't give up. You try again. You retry the entire installation if you have to. So we'll see what exactly is happening here. Now, other than that, Edge servers are generally where you apply your filtering and everything. So you can log into the Edge server as well. So once we start the installation here, we could potentially go back. We could potentially go back to Nita Edge 01 and take a look at what exactly is available on the Exchange Admin Center when we log in. Edge transport role, automatically install Windows Server roles and features that are required to install Exchange Server. Next. Now, once the prerequisites are configured and the prerequisites are analyzed, in our case, we have done everything by the book, everything correctly. So it should all work. but you never know. The command might fail, there might be something else going wrong. It could be n number of different things, guys. It could be n number of different things, but if any of those things fail, we'll immediately see the result right here. So let's wait. Let's see if it lets us install without any errors. I mean, it technically will. All right. So like I was saying earlier, now while this is running, this will take a little bit of time, right? So while this is running, we could go to Nita Edge 01. I could sign in here. And once I'm here, the first thing that you see is that there is no mailbox or anything else that is being set up here. So if I go to the browser, let us say I go to the browser. While this is loading, let me just quickly open a private tab. https://nita edge 01.netsoftakademy.com/ecp/. This will not lead to any place. You can see this here. This is not going to lead to anywhere. Let us say I change the ECP to, or just put it like this. It will not take me anywhere. There's nothing, there's no web interface for this. So that is one thing. But then how do you apply filters? How would you do all of this? The only way of doing that is if I go back to my mailbox server, mbxs01 right here, and right under this, under protection, under malware filters, I enable settings, I edit things, I tell it where to apply. I can set all of these things. I can set these new malware policies and everything, or I could edit my existing malware policy. And I can see in the settings where what it will do, where exactly it is applying. I can do all of that. Another way would be from the PowerShell. You can see edge subscription, that is the only command that is here, but set dash edge, you see there's no command that will let you do anything else. Execution policy, EW tracer, event log, exchange, assistance config, you're just a very basic commands. So these are a few things that we need to know. So now we'll wait for the second edge server, this one, to complete installation. It will fail at around step 7 and we'll retry. And I'll show you what exactly will be happening there. And here you can see that my edge transport role while installing just ran into an error. It's okay. I'll click on exit. I'll click on File Explorer, right click. And you can see this one thing here that I don't have autoplay on this one. You see there's no autoplay. So I click on open, scroll all the way down, find the setup file and double click on setup. Setup will automatically detect that there is an incomplete setup here. So you don't have to worry too much about it. You just need to say continue and it will just start the process all over again. Yes, it does take a little bit of time, yes, but it is still better than having to redo everything. So now it will start again. So we'll wait for this to complete, and once it is done, we will do the next part, that is setting up the edge subscription and all of those things. Now at this point, the setup has completed after the second time. Remember, this is the edge server. It took me 2 tries to get it done. All right, so this is done. So now let's quickly go to File Explorer, this PC, local disk C, create a new folder called edge file, and that's it. Now I'm going to run the commands again from the same document that I always use. So I open my Exchange Management Shell. Now remember, we are creating the edge subscription. So I go back here. I copy this command, new Edge subscription file name, and I go back here, paste that command. Oh, yeah, so it basically started running the command. It wasn't something that I did wrong. C:/ edge file / edge.xml. Enter. It will ask me, are you sure you want to do this? You say yeah, A, that is yes to all. And enter, and you should have your edge.xml file here. Now we need to copy this file over into the mailbox server. So I'm going to do the standard method. I'm just going to right click the folder, click on properties, click on sharing, click on share, and click on share. Because anyway, we are logged in as the administrator, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference now. Done. So we just need to know this location file. Okay, done. Now, again, I'll now go to Nita mbxs02. Now see, let me refresh this here. The Edge server is done. Remember, the Edge server is done. So if I click on servers again, you see, it will not show up here until I start the subscription and everything is working. Same goes for mail flow. If I click on send connectors, there's nothing here. All right. Let me quickly get rid of this for a second. Windows R, we paste the link, we paste the location, we get access to the file. Now I'm just going to copy the file or the folder, copy the folder, paste it in my local C drive here. So that way I have the location with my access or very easily accessible to me. All right, now comes the next part. The next part is that I'll have to run this command, new -edge subscription command. So I'll be very careful while copying and pasting this because I'll need to make sure that everything is formatted properly. So let us say path C:/edge file /edge.xml and enter. This will again ask me if I want to continue, and or you can see this already did it. Edge sync requires all of this. Okay. So now comes the next thing, that is start. First we do the test -edge synchronization. And you can see that the sync status is inconclusive. That means it is still spooling up in the background. So we try the command start-edge synchronization and it will say could not connect. We want to say success. So we'll wait for it. This will take around 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll wait for that time. We'll try a few times in the middle and we'll see if it works and what to do next. So after a few tries, as you can see here, my start-edge synchronization is successful and I can see my recipients and everything. Now we move on to the next part of the equation, that is configuring the DNS connectors between. Now this is our infrastructure built. Two forests, both infrastructures built. Now we move on to the next part, that is configuring mail flow between them. Now for this it all relies on the DNS. So let me give you an example. So for example, now if I want emails to be sent, I'll have to create certain records in my DNS on the domain controller to allow those things. So for example, this is my Nita ADDS02, as you can already see. Here, I'll have to create a new forward lookup zone and I would have to add certain records so that my DNS knows or my domain controller knows where I want the email to go. So let me get onto this. I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do in a minute. I click on new zone. Next. This will be a primary zone. Next. There's no change. The zone name here will be NetSoft Academy .com. Next. Now, there's no other change, just finish it, and this is how you would have it. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is create a new host record. This host record will point towards your, there will be two host records. One will point towards the gateway and the other towards the mailbox server. So 172, let's say here, I just leave the name open and I put in the IP address 172.16.10.20 or 10.1 here. This is my first one. And the other one 172.16.10.20 and I gave it a name, mail server. Okay, or let's say, let's use the same name, Nita MBXS01. Add host. Perfect, done. So now I have two hosts. Now I'm going to add a third record called a mail exchanger. So right click again, select new mail exchanger. Now I'm not going to fill up the details here, but for the fully qualified domain name of the mail server, I'll click on browse, select Nita ADDS02, under forward lookup zones, select netsoftakademy.com and select Nita MBXS01. Okay. Now this is exactly how it does, but even then the email is still going to go through the edge. The edge server will be the one that will be forwarding the emails. So I'm going to now repeat the same process in reverse, in opposite, on Nita MBXS, or sorry, Nita ADDS01. This was Nita ADDS02, so now let me quickly navigate to Nita ADDS01. Remember, this is one of those places where you need to be a little bit cautious about how you are doing. And this is also one of the reasons why I specified that you should keep your IP addresses very uniform. Okay, click on Tools, DNS, Nita ADDS01, forward lookup zones, right click, new zone, next, 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 Nita.local, next, next, finish. Now again, under Nita.local, right click on the blank space, or you can also right click on Nita.local. In fact, it's the same thing. Right click, new host, or A or AA or 4A, quadruple A. I'm not going to put in the name here. I'm just going to put in the IP address 172.16.10.1, add host. Okay. Now this one, Nita MBXS02, IP address 172.16.10.1110. Now remember, this is the reason why I said keep your IP addresses as far apart or as unique as possible. Okay, this is done. Done. Now right click, new mail exchanger, click on browse, Nita ADDS01, forward lookup zones, Nita.local, and select Nita MBXS02. Alright, so you can see that this is all done. Now this should ideally be good to send an email from one user to the other. So now this is where we are going to log in to the workstations. Now remember, this is the point when all of your virtual machines will be powered on, all 8 of your virtual machines. So it is a good idea to slow down a little bit here. You can use a virtual machine with less RAM if you need to. But don't reduce things to a point where nothing works and it is too frustrating. All right, let's see. Let's log in. So the user here was Megan Fox. So I'm going to log in as mfox. And the email will be sent to brucelee@nita.local. Remember that. The email will be sent from Megan Fox or mfox at netsoftakademy.com to B. Lee or Bruce Lee at nita.local. All of this will be happening through the edge servers. So let's see. This should not take too long. Honestly speaking, it should not take too long. But if you want to better utilize your time, but I recommend against it because you will be suddenly pushed for resources. You could send the email from here and then just suspend this machine, then go on to the next workstation to conserve your resources a little bit better. But that depends on your call. Okay, select edge, start without a data, confirm and continue, start browsing. Now right click, new in private window. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. So now I'm going to first go to https :/ nita mbxs01.netsoftakademy.com/owa/. This will take me to the Outlook web app. Click on advanced and click on continue to Nita MBXS. Now we are here now. So NetSoft Academy /mfox and password 1350. Now this is one of those scenarios wherein you might not even remember what you said as the password sometimes. This does happen to all of us. Don't worry, there are too many things moving around here. So it could happen. In case that happens, just reset the password from the Active Directory and you're good to go. So I'm going to send a new email. So I'm going to type the email address blee@nita.local. Okay, administrator at nita.local. And I'm going to CC this email to administrator under my own directory. You can see that there is a difference between the administrators here. Test email. This email is to verify mail flow between two forests using the edge transport service or the edge transport role servers acting as the DMZ between the two forests. Confirm the receipt of this email to establish mail flow and verify proper setup. Thanks. Regards, and I click on send. Now you can see this here. It's in my drafts. Now it's gone. In your case, sometimes it might end up being stuck in the, it's called the outbox or in the drafts. It's okay, it will happen. It will take a few minutes for the right pathway to be opened. Now, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to go to Nita WKST02 and I'm going to log in here. By logging in here, guys, I'm not lying, I'm starting all 8 machines at the same time. So any other thing that you're doing at the same time along with this is now in jeopardy of crashing. So if you don't have as much resources or you cannot allocate as many resources as possible like I am doing it here, just try to minimize other distractions while you're doing this scenario. Remember, this is a big scenario. And it is a more common scenario than you might assume that it is. So I'll wait for this to start. Once it is started, we'll just navigate directly to our OWA. Okay, so I've gotten myself into my Edge browser here, https://neta mbxs02.neta.local/owa/. Again, this will ask me, are you sure you want to continue? I click on advanced and continue. Yes, this is good. Domain neta /Beely. Now you might see me typing in A, but remember that it's more of a habit than anything else. Login, Eastern US and Canada, save. And ideally the email should be here. As you can see, the email is here. Reply all, email received. Confirming mail flow is correct and send. Now you see that it's in the drafts for a second. It will be in the drafts for a second and then it will leave. Now we have ensured that both the users are getting the emails. Now since you're already here, might as well just make sure that the administrator is also in the email. So I'll go to neta mbxs02 here. My ECP is anyway open. My ECP is anyway open here. So I'll just go to https://neta mbxs02.neta.local/owa/. And you can see, I can see both the emails are here. So even I could reply to this email. The administrator could also reply to this email. Confirming mail flow and send. Now everybody replying to one email, you might notice that it is getting a little bit too complicated, but in reality it isn't that complicated. The email is going through Edge. We had to manually point or specify which email server we wanted to go for. You could alternatively just point towards the Edge server and they would be talking to each other directly. Now same on mbxs01. Let us say I copy this part because I'm a little bit lazy and I don't want to keep typing things. So on OWA, I can see that I'm receiving. You see one thing here though. I've still not received the email from administrator. Remember, the administrator sent the email. The administrator also sent the email. Administrator at neta.local. That person also sent an email. So if I look at the email here, it was a reply all email anyway. So if I look at sent items and I see the details for this email, you can see that it was only sent to Megan Fox and Bruce Lee. It wasn't sent to the administrator because it got confused. That's perfectly all right. It's not a problem. We can always verify on Bruce Lee's end or Megan Fox's end that they received the email. But this just goes on to verify all of our mail flow issues are properly sorted out. You can see this, the emails are here. And that concludes our scenario with Edge servers. Thank you. And I'll see you in the next scenario.
Thank you for watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftakademy.com. www.netsoftakademy.com.